Welcome to Too Fond of Books. My name is Janelle and this is the second in my Tudor Collection series. I'm showing you the books that I have in my collection that are set during the Tudor time period. So the reigns of Henry VII, Henry VIII, Edward the Sixth. Is it Edward the Sixth or Edward the Seventh? I can never remember. Mary the First and Elizabeth I. So in my first video, and I will link it in the cards here if I can, I showed you the books in my collection that I have read. These will be the fiction books set in that time period that I have not yet read. So let's just get right into it. I have Alison Weir's The Lady Elizabeth from 2008. And this is the story of the young Elizabeth before she becomes the queen, I believe. I'm very interested in reading more from Alison Weir, and this one also, just isn't that cover really nice? Okay, moving on. My Lady of Cleaves by Margaret Campbell Barnes. This book was written in 1946, and it is the story of Anne of Cleves, and she was the fourth wife of Henry VIII. And there's a review on the back here by someone that I don't know, Henry Siddle Canby. But I thought it was interesting. He writes, Mrs. Barnes' historical novel is refreshing after the many sensational and unreliable books we have been getting of this kind. She is fortunate in her choice of heroine and fortunate in her period, the lusty days of Henry VIII's England, which she depicts with imagination and historical skill. It is a dramatic story full of color and good characters, great people made more human than romantic. And Anne, its center, is lifted from her historical obscurity and made a new and fully realized character type for English historical fiction. I'm really excited to get to this soon. I think it's interesting, first of all, because it was written in 1946 and it focuses on Anne of Cleves, which is kind of one of the maybe neglected wives of Henry VIII. And also in the synopsis, they write that Anne of Cleves, the only woman in his colorful, tempestuous life who was able to outwit him and live to tell the tale. So I think it's going to tell an interesting story about Anne of Cleves. Sacred Treason by James Forrester. James Forrester is a pseudonym for Ian Mortimer, who wrote the Time Traveler's Guide books. And so one of them is The Time Traveler's Guide to Elizabethan England. This was written in 2012, and this is set during the reign of, I believe, Elizabeth. 1563, that's Elizabeth, right? Your God, your country, your kin, who do you betray? Roses in the Tempest by Jeri Westerson, sorry. This was from 2015, and this is a tale of Tudor England. A king, a knight, a prioress. In 16th century England, Isabella Lauder little realizes the twists and turns her life is about to take as she surrenders herself to a small nunnery in order to forget her unrequited love for the courtier Thomas Gifford. She must learn, along with her sisters in Christ, the true nature of faith and survival, withstanding passionate jealousies, intrigues, and the emerging threats to the church itself, as one by one the monasteries are dissolved. Inspired by the true lives of Isabella Lauder and Thomas Gifford and set amid the onrushing storm of Henry VIII's break with Rome, obsession opposes faith in this tale of a wealthy knight and the last prioress of Black Ladies Convent. Firedrake's Eye by Patricia Finney. P.F. Chisholm, which is a series that you're going to see here in a minute is the pseudonym for this person. So that is the Robert Carey series. And so this was from 1991. And it is set in Elizabethan England. Brilliantly written in language eerily reminiscent of 16th century English and filled with the dazzling color and drama of Tudor England, Firedrake's Eye concerns a meticulously constructed plot to kill Queen Elizabeth I. Tom O'Bedlam is the name given to the narrator, the mad son of a prominent Catholic family who had him consigned to an asylum. Troubled by visions he sees and voices he hears in his mind as he roams the streets of London, Tom O'Bedlam stumbles upon evidence that his hated brother, a fanatical Catholic, has secretly returned to England to spearhead a scheme to assassinate the Queen during the elaborate festivities to commence her ascension to the throne. Hidden inside a Firedrake, an enormous float in the form of a dragon, the killer will shoot a poisoned arrow from the dragon's eye as it passes in front of the balcony where the Queen is standing. Financed by Philip II of Spain with the goal of putting Mary, Queen of Scots, on the throne, the conspiracy reaches into the highest levels of Elizabeth's government, even to the household of her shrewd and ruthless spy master, Sir Francis Walsingham. So that sounds really good. Court of Shadows. Oops. Court of Shadows by Cynthia Morgan. This is from 1992, a novel of Elizabethan England. So yeah, she didn't intend to defy the conventions of Elizabethan England. So I really don't know anything about this book. It just caught my eye at a book sale. Bernard Cornwell's Fools and Mortals from 2018. This is set in the world of the theater. In the heart of Elizabethan London, one man must risk all and play the part of a lifetime. Shakespeare's Rebel by C.C. Humpreys from 2013. This is set in Elizabethan London, London 1599. Elizabeth's last great love, the disgraced Earl of Essex, is plotting a revolution. The Tudor Secret by C.W. Gortner from 2011. This is set in 1553. And King Edward VI is on the throne. The era of the Tudors was one of intrigue, danger, conspiracy, and above all, spies. Young Bess by Margaret Irwin. This is from 1944. Obviously, this is a new edition of the book, but it's a book about Elizabeth when she is younger, the girl who would be queen. The Times Literary Supplement UK says, vivid and psychologically brilliant, the spirited novel enriches the imagination. And apparently it is book one in the compelling Elizabeth I trilogy. So I'll see if I can find the other two. The Irish Princess by Karen Harper. This is the same author that wrote the series that I showed in my other video of Elizabeth, historical mysteries about Elizabeth. This is about Elizabeth Fitzgerald. Born into a first family of Ireland with royal ties on both sides, Elizabeth Fitzgerald, known as Gira, finds her loving, carefree world overturned when tyrant Henry VIII imprisons her father, the Earl of Kildare, and brutally destroys her family. She ends up going to London and joining the court of King Henry, and that just sounded really interesting. The White Queen by Frederic Fallon, the superb novel of Mary, Queen of Scots. This was written in 1972, and what's fascinating about this is that it's the one and only book written by the author, because he was killed in a car accident before the book was even published. So I thought that was interesting. My Lord of Canterbury by Godfrey Turton. His brilliant best-selling novel of Henry VIII's mysterious and indestructible Archbishop. So this is the story of Thomas Cranmer from 1967 was when this was written. Death of the Fox by George Garrett from 1971. This is a great novel of the triumphs and tragedy of Sir Walter Raleigh. Death of the Fox takes in the whole fibre, texture, and grain of Elizabethan and Jacobean England. It covers the arrival of the Tudors in 1485 to the execution of Raleigh in 1618. The politics, religious disputes, the warfare, and rivalries of political factions. Mary Queen of Scots by John Hale. This is from 1972. Again, a story of Mary Queen of Scots. Fire Over England by A.E.W. Mason. This is from 1936. I believe this is the oldest fiction book that I have that's set in Elizabethan times. And it's a story of a boy called Robin, and Walsingham is involved. So there is intelligenciers and spies and all kinds of great stuff. And also, I kind of like this cover. All right, and then a couple of books from Michael Klein's in his Sir Roger Shallitt series. Michael Klein's is a pseudonym for Paul Doherty. I have books 2 and 4 of Sir Roger Shallitt concerning certain wicked conspiracies and horrible murders perpetrated in the reign of King Henry VIII. This is the second in the series called The Poisoned Chalice, and this is the fourth in the series called A Brood of Vipers. This series is from the 90s. And then I have a few Jean Plaidy books that are about Tudor people in the Tudor time period. Murder Most Royal from 1949. Is the story of Henry's 2 murdered queens, Anne Boleyn and Catherine Howard. St. Thomas's Eve from 1954, and this is the story of Thomas More, who was the, hang on a second, Chancellor of England during the reign of Henry VII. The Shadow of the Pomegranate from 1962, and this is the story of Catherine of Aragon and Henry VIII. The Thistle and the Rose from 1963, and this is actually a story of Margaret Tudor, who is the sister of Henry VIII. The Captive Queen of Scots from 1963. So this is the story of Mary Stuart after the murder of Darnley and the defeat at Carberry Hill. And it includes her incarceration and the events leading up to her death. Uneasy Lies the Head from 1982. This is a story of Henry VII. And Queen of This Realm, the story of Elizabeth I. This is from 1984. And the last Jean Plaidy, Rose Without a Thorn from 1993, the poignant story of Catherine Howard. Then I have a couple more in the series written by P.F. Chisholm. This is the Sir Robert Carey Historical Mystery Series. A Chorus of Innocence from 2015. And A Suspicion of Silver from 2019. This one takes place in 1592 and this one takes place in 1593. This series is set up on the border between England and Scotland. Sir Robert Carey is the Deputy Warden of the West March. And then Rory Clement's The Queen's Man. This is a series, but I only have this one book, and I have read one or two. I got them from the library. It's a John Shakespeare thriller. This one is from 2014. It's set in 1582, and John Shakespeare is an intelligencer. And then Ken Follett's A Column of Fire. This is the third in his Pillars of the Earth series. And this one is set in 1558, and this one was written in 2017. Edward Marston, An Elizabethan Mystery, The Malevolent Comedy from 2005. This is another one in that series. Nicholas Braithwell, he is the what's the word for his job in the theater? Book holder. He's the book holder for Lord Westfield's Men. I talked about the first book in this series in my previous video, and so this is another that I have. And so this is set in Elizabethan England. And then here's two books by the same author, Sandra Bird. This is To Die For from 2011, and this is a novel of Anne Boleyn. And then The Secret Keeper from 2012, and this is a novel of Catherine Parr. I have a couple by Barbara Kyle. This is The Queen's Lady. This was originally published as A Dangerous Temptation in 1994, and this is set in 1527. In the court of Henry VIII. And Blood Between Queens from 2013, and this is a story of cousins Elizabeth I and Mary Queen of Scots. And then I have a few by Alison Weir in her 6 Tudor Queens series. Catherine of Aragon, The True Queen from 2016. Anne Boleyn, A King's Obsession from 2017. And Anna of Cleves, The Princess in the Portrait from 2019. So that is my collection of Tudor fiction that I have not yet read. Now, have you read any of these books? Because I have a lot here, so I would love some recommendations of where you think I should start. What book do you think I should pick up first among this collection? Let's chat about that in the comment section down below, and I will see you for another video soon. Bye.